Hello, my social anti-socials. My name is Ginsu. Welcome to my personal public diary. Today is a very, very serious day, a special day, a day of awareness. It is World AIDS Day. So I thought to record this diary entry and have a brief conversation. Those of you that have stuck with me from the beginning might pretty much know that I am quite the sensitive one when it comes to the subject matter. I take it very seriously. Because I got rid of my old diary entries, I thought to re-highlight the subject matter, especially on this day. Um, World AIDS Day, man. We know it is that day where we raise awareness regarding the sexually transmitted disease, AIDS, and also HIV. And amongst the conversations, conversations like raising awareness regarding STDs and STIs, and like spreading messages of responsibility, spreading, yeah, responsibility, practicing safe sex, practicing abstinence if that's your thing, as well as making a habit out of going to get tested, um, as well as the importance of taking your medication, your ARVs, if you are one living with the virus, HIV, or AIDS, if it be, the importance of taking your medication and all the other hectic, well, not hectic, but like all the other medications you can take to like prevention of pregnancy, prevention of STDs and STIs, your PrEPs, etc. It is that day. It is that day where cases are read out about how many have decreased, how many cases have decreased, how many people have been efficiently been put on medication, how, just, the records of how well we are doing or we're not doing in regards to containing the disease and the virus. For me, the subject matter is quite touchy because it hits close to home. I am one of the people that are affected, not infected, are affected by HIV and AIDS. And man, in my youthful years, and these youthful years I've lived, I have seen that a lot of people um are not pretty much in touch with reality when it comes to, HIV and AIDS and STDs and STIs, etc., etc. For most people, these are like case scenarios that are usually written in a textbook, especially my peers. When we are in our early 20s and our freaking teens, like these things are like case scenarios, but as you experience life, they hit quite close to home, and you become that one person that gets to be a little bit more aware that it's very real, it's no joke, and you ought to be very, very responsible, and also get involved with responsible people, or at least hope that the person you get involved with is responsible. um it's not only sexually transmitted, there's so many various ways where people have gotten infected, and it wasn't necessarily via sexually transmitted diseases. I mean, it wasn't via sexual intercourse. It was, could be accidents, it could be utensils, those kind of freak accidents, even in job places, workplaces, things like that. So yeah, man, for me, I've had to have had the harshest reality check when I was about um I think I was 21. I had gotten involved in my first serious relationship that was also sexually, where I was also sexually active. And boy, I was too naive, and I trusted somebody who, by God's grace, though, I really walked out from that relationship unaffected. No STD, no STI, nothing. But I came pretty close because I genuinely was exposed in a situation where the intersections were quite hectic and I was not aware. I trusted somebody that looked me straight in the eyes and said, I would never do anything to hurt you. And he went off and did exactly what could have killed me, you know. And since that day, I was never the same. And it was right after that relationship had broken down, and you know, I became aware of such a situation that I also got the shock of my life to realize that one of my closest members of family were infected. You know, they were living with the virus, and the peak of the story is the family member was infected by their own spouse. And you know what? That just made me lose my brain's words. The 21-year-old me could not take that level of shock. It was astounding to me. It felt like I'd been lashed into like reality, like, hey, this is how it is out here. So I'd realized that ever since that point, man, I've never been the same, you know. I'm still quite not sure if I'm sensitive and reactive due to trauma, or I am genuinely, you know, doing fine by taking things very, very seriously. Um, and my mom always teaches me that no, I'm not acting out of she always reminds me and constantly that I'm not reacting um out of trauma or anything. I am, in fact, you know, being responsible, being hyper vigilant, because that is a fact. That's exactly how it is out here. Um, you know, people that are infected are not written here that I have an STD, I have an STI. None of us, our bodies don't show. They all look healthy, but they're carriers. You know, some of them don't even know they're carriers. Some of them know, some of them don't even know, because whatever they might be infected with at that moment could probably dormant. And then, you know, in their acts of not being responsible or practicing safe sex and also being monogamous, they go on and have casualties. You know, the whole intersections thing, oh, you know, it's a heavy thing. So I'm still I'm still trying to figure out if, you know, I'm responding from a place of trauma or from a place of awareness. But um yeah, from a place of awareness of a different reality that most people seem to be a bit wasped from. Unlike people that are affected and infected, you know, they tend to be a bit more realistic about things. But anybody that might have simply read about the virus or the disease and the STDs and STIs on a pamphlet or at school, they have no way of a reality check closer to that of the one who is affected or infected, you know. For people who are affected and infected, that is a real reality. It's a real life thing. Whereas that's a case scenario, and therefore that's where we differ in our conduct, you know, and how we carry ourselves most times. Some people cannot even grasp the idea that, or even the ratio to which um they interact with people that are possible carriers in real life, you know. Like I'm saying, like on a day-to-day, we all look normal, we all look healthy, you know. That's the thing about STDs and STIs, like they're not that evident. You can't look at somebody's body and say, ooh, you know, that person looks sick. And so for some people that haven't had the harsh reality check, um it's really theoretical. It's a myth to them. And people like me, who've had very pretty much a harsh reality check, we are very vigilant, we are very aware, and we take this whole thing seriously. Personally, my personal morale and even how I gauge things. When it comes to infidelity, I am quite harsh. I'm quite serious about it. I pretty much equate infidelity to murder, because I interpret it as the person I entered into a relationship with, and we had agreed that we are monogamous, and that person steps out of our relationship. That person was willing to risk their life, I mean risk my life, for their minutes worth of pleasure. So I mean, who knows what that person could have possibly collected when he steps outside, or she stepped outside of the relationship, and then to come back to me again, that is to me attempted murder. If you ain't infected, if you ain't infect me, when you infect me, that's literally equated to murder. So I take cheating, infidelity pretty seriously. um I did talk about this in the old diary entries. I'm like, man, I feel like the saddest thing I've witnessed with our generation is people, not even our generation, just even before, generations before, it's just that people really are spoiled with options. They're spoiled with options, and they feel or think that because they have options, they ought to try out all the options at the same time. And they always have the mentality of the grass is greener on the other side. That cannot always be the case. For all you know, the grass might be green on the other side because it's fucking fake. You don't even know what it takes to maintain the grass on the other side. So I always say live by the motto of loving yours. Um, I always pretty much reference J. Cole's Love Yours song. I'm like, that song, the motto, I will link it below in the description for you to listen to it if you don't know it. But that song always brings the essence of why you gotta appreciate what you have. And if you feel at any point you're not satisfied, yeah, I always try to be as realistic as possible. In this world, there are about what 8 billion people. It's impossible that you're going to be attracted to or connect to one person only. It's impossible that you're going to fall in love with one person only, right? There's so many of us, but it is also your responsibility to be with one person at a time. Responsibility, is key. And most people don't practice that. It's now a culture thing where we're talking about side dishes, side chicks, side niggas, sneaky links. I see all that, but I feel like um, we don't talk about the realities, or the harsh realities and the consequences that come with practicing such things in our everyday lives. It's become such an entrenched culture, but very often, very not so often, are the consequences highlighted. So yeah, man, that's what I wanted to touch on. I don't remember any single relationship I've been in where infidelity hadn't been the case of the breakdown of the relationship, all of them. And you can imagine me, 21-year-old me, having had that harsh reality check and that trauma, and then still continuing to date and enter into relationships and the same thing happening over and over. It really deterred my spirit. And that's why I literally went through that period where I was saying, yo, my morale and willpower to live is like done for, because it is very difficult to reconcile yourself with that level of betrayal, with that level of, oh my God, the person I say I love does not really love me like that, because they are willing to risk my life for their own pleasure. Like, they put themselves first before my safety's work. Because when you enter into a relationship, you are literally placing each other's lives in each other's hands. And that other person responsible for you, you're responsible for the other person. You are on each other's team. You need to look out for each other. But it doesn't really play out like that nowadays. Like, people are really, I don't know, man. It's like selfishness is the mode at which a human being operates. This is not even a gendered thing, it's a very human being thing. So I could say I've collected a whole lot of traumas from my past relationships at each case where infidelity had happened, and people don't even think like betrayal trauma is a real thing. It's a real thing, and it's very valid. Your body literally responds a different way, which is why I talked about how I went months, depressed, suffering from anxiety attacks, suffering from anxiety, stomach cramps, my stool being bad. I lost weight dramatically. My hair fell out. I couldn't sleep. So many things. Like my health was terrible, and I was suffering because the trauma of the betrayal kept on replaying, and also looking at what was at stake. It's very difficult for a person to reconcile themselves with, yo, the person I said I love really risked me like that. Um, and it's very, when trust is betrayed and broken at that level, I don't know how other people do it to reconcile. My personal rule, there's no reconciliation. There's no going back to that. You try to kill me, you try to murder me. I can't sleep on the same bed with you anymore. I can't speak to you anymore. You try to kill me. Um, but outside of the politicking of relationships and the betrayal and the traumas that come with it, um, there's a very interesting lady I once watched, and her case scenario was about her husband. She had gotten married to this man, and he was infected. He was a carrier before they met, before they got married, and they went ahead and got married. He didn't disclose his status to her. I, I'm pretty, I'm pretty rusty on remembering the details on if they had done any testings together or whatever. But essentially, this man kept on lying to her about his status, and the lady fell sick. So what happened to her is she kept on falling sick, and her immune system was reacting badly, and she got hospitalized and all these things. Um, what they ended up finding out was her body, all the years that she'd been in the marriage, had been fighting off the infection from the husband, and luckily for her, she wasn't infected. However, that had compromised her immune system so much because her immune system fought off pretty hard, and it took a huge strain, and she developed other complications. You see these kind of things. That was somebody that had sworn to God in front of people to protect that woman, and he didn't. He selfishly withheld that information because his reason was he wanted a family and a wife. So see how selfish people are. Um, you you absolutely can never utterly know a human being to the fullest. We want to believe that we know them, we want to believe that we trust them, but to the core of it, a human being is a very selfish being. And you gotta watch out for yourself, sis or bro, that you are not at the receiving end of the short stick, the receiving end of the short stick. You don't lose in this whole thing. Um, and I will link that story as well. I would like for you guys to watch it, but the message I was getting from that is, one, please go get tested with your partners together. Not this whole thing of, um, oh, one going to get tested and one going to get tested, and then you just tell each other face to face about your results, or you exchange results. Even if you exchange results, ensure that you authenticate that those results are genuine. But personally, as a couple, I would advise that you go together and you ensure that you have reached that level at which you both are ready to take that step, that you can involve each other like that. If you cannot involve each other like that, you're not ready to have sex with each other. I'm sorry. Too much or too many of us, or very often do we as people, rush head first and all that. We're steady rushing into having sex with each other, but we are so sketchy when it comes to getting tested together. Why? The fact that we can lay with each other, that means we are ready to put each other's lives in each other's hands, as well as we are ready to be intimate and very transparent to that level. So, personally, that would be my message to you, whoever's watching, whether you're young, whether you're old, especially the young ones. Don't be played here by your boyfriend or your girlfriend telling you, like, I got tested, girl, I am clean. Go together, go together, and it be that kind of a transparent thing. Make it a norm to get tested. Practice safe sex. It's very important. Do not, the excuses people make out here, practice safe sex, because that is the safest you be. For as long as you're having sex, you're at the risk of conducting STD and STI. So safe sex is literally no sex or masturbation. Or masturbation. But for as long as you're having sex, you're at risk of contracting the virus. People, I've seen people like really feel at ease that they can, go about and have all their intersections because they're using protection. And it's like the protection itself is a 99.9% that it can protect you. But there are other probabilities, like it could break, things like that. There could be so many things, and it's like, should that kind of a probability find you? Where you at? Where you at? Should that probability find you? Are you now risked? Are you now compromised? Are you now pre-exposed to something? You know. So, monogamy, safe sex, get tested and get tested together. Heck, go for pre-counseling as couples together, um, and post-counseling. Ensure that you're very, very transparent and very responsible about your sex life. And it's not only about containing the trustworthiness of, oh, your partner is doing this, the other partner is doing that. Sometimes it's literally genuinely protecting each other. The other partner could be working at a high risk environment that, they stand a chance of contracting the virus. Example, nurses, doctors. Sometimes it's freak accidents. Ladies, we go do our nails, we go do our hair. Sometimes it's car accidents, etc. Sometimes it's blood transfusions, that sometimes there's medical negligence. There's so many ways and so many things that can happen all the time. So really, bottom line is, if you love each other, you enter into a monogamous relationship, you ought to be protecting each other. Protect yourself, protect the other partner. That is, to me, in my personal opinion, ultimate love. If you decide to not use protection, there's other medications. Um, Personally, I would say that's the last resort and should not be taken like it's it's just a nothing. Like medications like PrEP are very heavy on your immune systems. So couples that, like, for example, are trying for babies, they take those. But like on an ordinary day, personally, I would say don't do that, because even studies show that that on its own puts you at a higher risk, and stuff like that. Um, like your immune system can be pretty much compromised because of how heavy the drug is. uh what else? Yeah, man, just be responsible and try to conduct yourself in a way that you would like to be treated by the next person. If you're not feeling the relationship anymore, hey, you can absolutely still break it off and be responsible by being with one at a time. Too much trauma and too much consequences stem from infidelity. I really, I wish our generation and generations to come kind of reform. I don't know if Earth will be better, but hey, I won't be here. But somebody will run into this someday. Hmm? So that's what I have to say. Um, yeah, I'll link the story, I'll link the song, and you can have a blast watching those and listening to that. And just keep in mind, like, this shit is real. It's very real. It's no theory, it's no myth. Literally, in a day, you probably are interacting with probably like 80% of carriers that either know or don't know, and it's so anonymous. So be careful, and also the grass is not always green on the other side. Love yours. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.